Hey everybody, welcome back to the Ohio Valley Real Estate Report brought to you by Harvey, Goodman, Realtor. My name is Johnny Kazumka, broadcasting live from the St.Clairsville, Ohio office studio. And today we are talking all about negotiation. Little tidbits of useful knowledge that you can take and apply to pretty much any facet of negotiation. I don't care if you're buying a house, if you're buying shoes, a car, health insurance, whatever that you're buying. Hopefully there's some information here that you can use and apply it to other facets of daily life. So thanks for joining me. And about negotiation, I often find that during these types of conversations, it's easy to start with a definition. And negotiation is relatively easily defined. It's a discussion amongst two or more people about achieving a common goal. And sometimes that goal is mutually beneficial to all. Sometimes it's mutually exclusive to one side. And through all the quirks, all the nuances that make up the entire spectrum of human behavior, it is impossible to speculate or to predict outcomes, but I can promise you that there is a way to do this with more success than others. And what I mean by that is there is some tips and tricks that you can employ to maximize situations to be more in your favor, whether you're buying, whether you're selling anything. So let's get into that. When negotiating, there's usually two different types of tactics. You can either have a hard stance negotiation or you can have a soft stance negotiation. And the difference between the two is pretty dry. Hard stance is basically focusing and hyper concentrating on one particular outcome, one particular goal. You might be focused only on monetary value. The only thing I care about is getting this house at the best price possible, and that's it. I don't care by any other means necessary. I'm not worried about what the other person thinks about me. Anything else, I just want that. And to that extent, hard stance negotiation will always 100% of the time beat soft stance negotiation. So you might be asking yourself, why on earth would anybody want to be a soft stance negotiator or take that stance to begin with? And we'll get to that in a minute. But what hard stance does is pretty much lays out ultimatums. You might be a cash buyer. You might be an investor. I am throwing out you're selling your house for $100,000. I'm throwing out an $80,000 cash offer. Take it or leave it. If you want to, I'll leave it open-ended. But if you don't accept this within the next, 5 days, I'm reserving my right to go buy something else. And it's day 4, and you haven't had any other offers as a seller. That $80,000 offer, as much as you want to grind your teeth and say if it's a cash transaction buying as is, you might be willing to take less because it's a hard stance. It's an ultimatum. So that favors the buyer in that particular instance, but there's other examples for a seller. So soft stance negotiation, what is the difference? A soft stance is where you try to preserve the relationship between both parties, buyer and seller, and you appeal to the better nature of someone's character because you intend to either preserve that relationship so that if something does come up later that you might want to resolve other future issues. Maybe there's an inspection issue, maybe there's a title issue, maybe there's an appraisal issue. If you have bullied someone or taken a hard stance prior to your negotiation and then something comes up down the line, you are significantly less likely to have them re-enter into negotiation or to try and, to adjust on the fly. And real estate transactions are dynamic, so you almost have to account for that. There's a lot of moving parts that change during from where we start to where we finish. So soft stance certainly has its place. And in fact, I even encourage it for the fact that since transactions tend to be dynamic, it doesn't do us much good at something, focusing on a hyper-concentrated goal up front, only to damage the relationship. So when something goes wrong, if it goes wrong later, that we don't have a chance to fix that problem because you've already bruised and damaged that relationship up front. So, and when I talk about value, hyper-concentrating on something, in real estate speak, it is not lost on me that the most focused on subject within our negotiation is price. Okay? People will focus on their monetary value over anything else inside of a contract. And that's to be expected. All right? It's like I said, it's not lost on me. But it's not the only thing that's important. Okay? In value, I break it down into two different categories. You have intrinsic value and you have extrinsic value. Intrinsic value is relatively easy to understand. It's what something is made up of, what it's cost to basically produce. So, for example, this coffee mug, how much would it cost to produce? versus extrinsic value, what it means to you as something, as a, think of something like right outside this door, I have a printer that is laser guided and that can produce images down to brush stroke quality. I can find any image right now on Google of Van Gogh's Starry Night, and I can print it with that printer, whether it's on cloth, whether it's on paper, high gloss, whatever. Whether it's on canvas. I don't care what I'm printing it on. I can print it to pretty much mirror Van Gogh's hand-painted work. Now, why is my painting produced off of a printer barely worth the material that it's printed on, while Van Gogh's painting will sell for millions of dollars? And the answer is simple. It was done by the Dutch master's hand himself. The extrinsic value is blatantly different because it's an original. But at the end of the day, you can make them and mass produce them to look very similar. You see what I'm talking about here? So extrinsic value is something that we have to focus on specifically. And this really focuses more on you as the buying side of things. It definitely applies to both realms, but especially on the buying side. If you're selling a house, for example, to buy another house, you might be selling it out of necessity. Maybe you're upsizing. Maybe you're expecting and you're buying a larger home. Maybe you're relocating across the country because you're taking a different job. I don't care why you're doing it, but usually when you're selling a house as a contingency to buy another house, it's done out of necessity. And people will oftentimes focus so intently of what they're netting from their sale and not what they're gaining from their purchase. And that's completely wrong. At least in my opinion, that's wrong. Because the value that you gain from your relocation for your work or from your, upsizing or whatever the conditions are in life that why you're making this change, the value you gain from the purchase of the property needs to be accounted for pretty much equal to, if not more than, what you're going to net from your sale. Because it's a requirement. It's something that we have to talk about. And the thing is, only you as that person know what that means to you. I can't possibly measure that. I can tell you what we're going to net, and I'm going to try to get the most out of your home sale to put the most money into your pocket to make that easy. It will be great to have the best of both worlds. But I oftentimes coach, focus on this goal. Focus on your extrinsic value of what you're going to be gaining as far as this property is concerned, not so much what you're going to be putting on in your pocket. Yeah, we're going to talk about both, but it's important to focus on, at least that much, at least on equal terms. So what can you do as a buyer as far as maximizing your potential for your negotiation for a seller? Sometimes it's difficult because you as a buyer, and many people watching this might even find themselves saying, yeah, that was me. That was me last week. There might be a new listing that comes out today. And as it hits the market, there might be 10 people that go and run to see it because it's brand new. Might be priced well, good condition, good location, everything about it's good. And by the time as you as a buyer get to that property, there might be 5 or more offers on the same house. What are you going to do as a buyer to maximize your potential to make sure that your offer sticks out? Well, the first thing we talk about, again, pricing. Okay, but it's not just there, but obviously that's the case. Your positional power to negotiate is severely diminished, if not entirely negated, by the fact that you have to compete and be equal to or better than the competition standing next to you. Just plain and simple. I can't possibly have that much influence that if the house is new to the market, listed at $200,000, I would love to be able to sell it to you for $150,000 as a buyer client. How am I supposed to do that if there's another offer for $200,000? You see what I'm saying? I'm not that persuasive. I don't know who is. So we have to at least manage those expectations. But what we can do is factor in other things within the contract that might be persuasive in itself. So types of offers, for example, highly persuasive tactics that you can use for your negotiation. 3 full price offers are not the same for the seller. For example, you might have a full price cash offer. You might have a full price conventional line of credit for the house, and you might have a full price government-backed loan to give to the seller. And if I was a seller's agent, I would advise in that exact order, accept the cash offer first, conventional loan, and then government-backed. Because if all offers are the same at a monetary value, I am basically saying to you that this is the easiest, this is the middle ground, and this is the most difficult. Why on earth would you take the most difficult path for the exact same thing at the end? You understand? So that's why when we say cash offers, you've heard the term cash is king. That's what we're talking about. because you can alleviate a lot of the bureaucracy that comes with some of the government loans or the conventional loans or anything that goes through, some type of third party. Cash transactions are known for being the easiest and the coin of the realm. So if you have that luxury, if you have cash or cash equivalent, maybe like a home equity line of credit, you can use that as positional power. Even so much so that let's just flip the script a little bit and say, okay, there's a house for $200,000, but here's a cash offer for $190. Here's a conventional offer for $200. Here's a government-backed loan for $205. Now we have some thinking to do, because the cash offer is $15,000 less than the highest offer on the table. But the highest offer on the table tends to be the most difficult path. $205 would be great, but if we can't close because of that difficulty that government loans tend to impose on a seller, 0% of $205, if the deal doesn't close, you get absolutely nothing. So a seller still has a tough decision to make at that point. The buyer is using that positional power, that leverage of being a cash transaction to influence price in their favor. You can see how that could work. So, and again, it's I can't possibly speak in objective, outcome as far as how, what to do. I can only tell you that these are, when you as a buyer focus so intently on just one facet, on price alone, and just forget that your type of loan matters. Let's just say you're a buyer, for example, when you're selling your home, you're having a home sale contingency, you can almost kiss your positional power to negotiate or influence price goodbye. It's extremely difficult when you're selling a home to buy another home to get the home, the seller of the house that you're buying, to influence price while simultaneously asking them to inherit a home sale contingent transaction. Even a full price home sale contingent offer, there are sellers who will flat out refuse it because they don't want to have to deal with 2 appraisals and 2 title searches and 2 inspections and twice as many things that can go wrong. You need to go above the asking price in most cases because you're asking the seller to take pretty much the most difficult transaction that we could possibly have. So it's not, again, just focusing so intently on monetary value. All of these things have to be taken into consideration. And when you take them in, whether you're going to do a hard stance approach, whether you're going to do a soft stance approach, if you're not having conversations with your agent about these types of things, this is what I'm talking about. Who you work with matters. It matters specifically. Because if you give me an offer to take to a seller, and then you give the same offer to another agent, and to another, and to another, if you give the same offer to 10 agents, do you think that they're all going to have the exact same outcome? Or do you think one of us has a better chance of getting your offer accepted versus someone else? You see what I'm saying? Because we have to structure that offer. It's not as if we're going and presenting it and doing all these things and putting on a PowerPoint presentation for the seller, and it's not like that happens. But at least delivered in a pragmatic sense, in a well-calculated, putting everything in order, pre-approval letter on top of this, and making sure that's presented in the best case scenario, the best way possible, and explained in the best way possible, enhances your positional power as a buyer. If my job was just relegated to filling out cookie-cutter style contracts, sliding it across the desk, and just asking the other party to read it without explaining it, anybody can do that. Anybody. That's not me. That's why I say to people, my job is not in sales, it's in consultation, and that's why this is so important. So again, if you are thinking of buying, if you're thinking of selling, 5 minutes of your time, consultation is always free. I'll do whatever I can to answer any questions that you have and to make sure that you are absolutely on the best track possible. Thanks again for watching. Have a great day.